The Awakening the Void Nebula had always been a place where ships went to die. Its swirling darkness stretched across 3 star systems, filled with electromagnetic storms that could fry any electronic system in seconds. No sane pilot would venture into its depths, which made Sixtella's discovery all the more shocking. The Catheri explorer had been running illegal salvage operations on the nebula's edge when his sensors picked up something impossible. A massive structure, larger than most space stations, drifting silently through the cosmic graveyard. At first glance, it appeared to be another derelict, but something about its design made Sixtel's scales prickle with unease. The ship was unlike anything in the galactic databases. Its hull stretched 4 kilometers, covered in angular plates that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Strange symbols were etched along its surface, symbols that predated any known civilization. Most disturbing of all, despite floating in the nebula for who knows how long, the vessel showed no signs of damage from the electromagnetic storms. Sixtel transmitted his coordinates to the Galactic Coalition, hoping for a substantial finder's fee. Within days, the area swarmed with research vessels from dozens of species. The Valkyrie brought their advanced scanners. The Threx deployed their military analysts. Even the mysterious Ethereals sent a representative, something they hadn't done in over a century. Dr. Nitherkel, the galaxy's leading expert on extinct civilizations, was among the first to examine the vessel up close. Her tentacles trembled as she studied the alien script covering the hull. After hours of analysis, she made a discovery that sent shockwaves through the scientific community. The symbols weren't alien at all. They were human. Humanity had been extinct for 20,000 years. Every schoolchild in the galaxy knew the story. Once, humans had been a proud spacefaring race, exploring the outer rim with determination that bordered on recklessness. They had established colonies on dozens of worlds, built impressive cities, and even made first contact with several alien species. Then, suddenly, they had vanished. Their colonies were found abandoned, their ships discovered drifting empty. In space, most scholars agreed that humans had simply pushed too far, too fast, eventually encountering something that wiped them out completely. Yet here was undeniable proof that humanity had built something magnificent before their extinction. The ship was a masterpiece of engineering, its design incorporating technologies that even modern galactic civilization couldn't fully understand. But it was also completely dead, showing no energy signatures, no life signs, nothing to indicate. It was anything more than a very impressive tomb. Guard Council Prime Veltar ordered the first boarding mission. A team of Catheri Marines, chosen for their experience with hostile environments, approached the vessel in heavily shielded boarding pods. They found an airlock near the ship's midsection and managed to force entry after several hours of work. The Marines' initial reports were routine. The ship's interior was dark and silent, its corridors filled with stale air that hadn't circulated in millennia. Emergency lighting flickered occasionally, powered by some unknown energy source that defied analysis. The architecture was distinctly human, with high ceilings and wide passages designed for bipedal beings of average height. As the team moved deeper into the vessel, they began to discover more about its former occupants. Personal quarters contained belongings that offered glimpses into human daily life. Photos showed families, children, loved ones left behind. Workstations held projects that had been abandoned Everything suggested that the crew had simply vanished, leaving their lives frozen in time. The Marines had been exploring for 6 hours. When they reached what appeared to be the ship's command center, It was a vast chamber filled with control consoles and display screens, all dark and lifeless. At the center sat a chair that could only belong to the ship's captain, positioned to oversee every aspect of the vessel's operation. That's when everything went wrong. The team leader, Sergeant Crixvo, approached the captain's chair to examine it more closely. The moment his clawed hand touched the armrest, every light in the command center blazed to life. Screens flickered and displayed streams of incomprehensible data. Warning sirens began to wail throughout the ship. The last transmission from the boarding team was Sergeant Crixvo, screaming something about eyes, thousands of eyes, all looking at him at once. Then silence. Rescue teams found the boarding pods empty, still sealed from the outside. Security footage showed the Marines entering the ship, but there was no record of them leaving. They had simply disappeared, just like the original human crew 20,000 years earlier. The Galactic Coalition established a quarantine zone around the vessel while they debated their next move. Some species wanted to destroy it immediately, viewing it as a threat to galactic security. Others argued for continued study, believing the ship held secrets that could advance civilization by centuries. The debates raged for weeks, with no resolution in sight. During this time, Dr. Neithakel made another disturbing discovery. By analyzing the ship's trajectory and comparing it with stellar drift patterns, she determined that the vessel hadn't been drifting randomly. It had been following a specific course, one that would eventually bring it into contact with inhabited systems. The ship had been moving with purpose, as if guided by an intelligence that knew exactly where it was going. This revelation changed everything. If the ship was actively controlled, then something was alive inside it. Something that had survived 20,000 years in the depths of space. The question was no longer what the ship was, but who was flying it. The answer came 3 days later, in the form of a transmission that broadcast simultaneously across every communication frequency in known space. The signal was impossibly strong, overpowering military encryption and civilian networks alike. Every screen, every speaker, every communication device in the galaxy carried the same message. The voice that spoke was unmistakably human, though altered by age and weariness that stretched across millennia. It spoke in the ancient human language of English, but universal translators somehow rendered it perfectly comprehensible to every species that heard it. My name is Admiral Chiron, Cross of the Terran Deep Space Fleet. I have been waiting for 20,000 years to deliver this message. We are not dead. We never were. We have been watching, waiting, preparing for the day when our vigil would end and our duty could finally be fulfilled. The transmission continued, painting a picture that challenged everything the galaxy thought. It knew about humanity's fate. Humans hadn't been wiped out by some external force or internal collapse. They had made a conscious choice to disappear, to sacrifice their place in galactic civilization for a greater purpose. Long ago, we encountered something in the deep void between galaxies. Something ancient and hungry and utterly hostile to all forms of life. We called it the Devourer, and we learned that it was heading toward our galaxy, consuming everything in its path. We had perhaps 50,000 years before it would arrive, and we knew that no single species could stand against it. The revelation hit the galactic community like a shockwave. An external threat, something from beyond their galaxy, had been approaching for millennia, and humanity had known about it all along. We made a hard choice. We withdrew from galactic society, allowed ourselves to be forgotten so that we could prepare in secret. We built ships like the Eternal Sentinel, vessels designed not for exploration or warfare, but for the long watch. We scattered ourselves across the void, becoming guardians at the galaxy's edge, ready to sound the alarm when the time came. Admiral Cross's voice carried the weight of ages, the exhaustion of someone who had borne an impossible burden for far too long. Yet beneath the weariness was something else, determination and perhaps even hope. That time has come. Our deep space monitors have detected the Devourer's approach. It will reach the galactic rim within 100 standard years. We have spent 20 millennia preparing for this moment, and we are ready to take our place in the final battle. But we cannot fight this enemy alone. We need every species, every fleet, every weapon that the galaxy can provide. The transmission ended with coordinates, a meeting point in neutral space where humanity would make formal contact with the Galactic Coalition for the first time in 20,000 years. The message was clear. The age of hiding was over, and the real war was about to begin. As the implications of the Admiral's words sank in, one thing became crystal clear. Humanity's disappearance hadn't been a tragedy at all. It had been the greatest act of sacrifice in galactic history, and now that sacrifice was about to pay off in ways no one could have imagined. Asterisk. The Guardian's truth, the meeting point, was a small asteroid field in the neutral zone, equidistant from the three major galactic powers. Within days of Admiral Cross's transmission, it became the most heavily monitored piece of space in the galaxy. Every major species sent representatives, from the militant Cathari Empire to the reclusive ethereal collective. Even ancient races that rarely involved themselves in galactic politics arrived to witness humanity's return. The Eternal Sentinel arrived precisely on schedule, emerging from hyperspace with a grace that belied its massive size. Up close, the ship was even more impressive than initial reports had suggested. Its dark hull rippled with energy patterns that suggested technologies far beyond current understanding. Weapon ports lined its surface, but they remained closed, sending a clear message of peaceful intent. Council Prime Veltar led the coalition delegation, his usual composure shaken by the magnitude of the situation. Beside him, Dr. Nithakel clutched her research notes, eager to finally unlock the mysteries of human disappearance. The bridge of their command ship buzzed with nervous energy as they prepared for first contact with a species that was supposed to be extinct. The communication came through crystal clear, no longer the ancient, worn voice from the original transmission. This was different, younger, filled with an energy that suggested life rather than mere survival. Coalition vessels, this is Captain Alina Vasquez of the Eternal Sentinel. Admiral Cross sends his regards, but he thought you might prefer to speak with someone who remembers what it's like to breathe real air and feel actual sunlight. Dr. Kell gasped. Captain, are you saying there are living humans aboard your vessel? A warm laugh came through the speakers. Doctor, there are living humans all over the galaxy. We never went extinct, we just got very good at hiding. The Eternal Sentinel carries a crew of 12,000, and we're just one of 47 ships currently on patrol. The revelation sent shockwaves through the assembled delegates. Humanity hadn't just survived, they had thrived in secret, building a fleet that dwarfed most species' entire military forces. But the biggest surprise was still to come. We've been monitoring galactic communications for centuries, Captain Vasquez continued. We know about your wars, your trade disputes, your political upheavals. We've watched species rise and fall, seen civilizations build wonders and make terrible mistakes. And through it all, we've been proud of what you've accomplished together, Council. Prime Veltar found his voice. "Captain, if you've been watching us all this time, why didn't you make contact sooner? Why let us believe you were extinct?" The pause that followed was heavy with 20 millennia of loneliness and sacrifice. When Captain Vasquez spoke again, her voice carried the same weariness that had marked Admiral Cross's original message. "Because we knew that if we revealed ourselves too early, it would change everything. Species would have tried to recruit us, use our technology for their own purposes. Wars would have been fought over access to human space. The delicate balance that allowed galactic civilization to flourish would have been shattered." She was right, and everyone on the Coalition ships knew it. The technology displayed by the Eternal Sentinel alone would have been worth fighting over. A full human fleet would have destabilized the entire galaxy. So we waited and watched and prepared. We built our ships in the deep void where no one would find them. We established hidden colonies on dead worlds that didn't appear on any star charts. We became ghosts, legends, stories told to children about the mysterious humans who flew too close to the stars. Dr. Kell leaned forward, her scientific curiosity overriding diplomatic protocol. "Captain, you mentioned the Devourer. Can you tell us more about this threat?" The screens throughout the Coalition fleet flickered and displayed images that made hardened military officers gasp in horror. The Devourer wasn't a single entity, but a vast swarm of mechanical constructs, each one the size of a moon. They moved through space like a plague, stripping entire star systems of matter and energy, leaving nothing but empty void in their wake. We first encountered them 60,000 years ago, when human exploration ships pushed beyond the galactic rim, Captain Vasquez explained. They had already consumed 3 smaller galaxies and were heading our way. Our scientists calculated that they would arrive in approximately 50,000 years, give or take a few centuries. The mathematics were terrifying. Even at sublight speeds, the Devourer swarm would have had more than enough time to cross the intergalactic void. And when they arrived, nothing in the galaxy would be able to stop them. We tried to warn the other species, but we quickly realized that knowledge of the threat would cause panic and chaos. Governments would have collapsed, resources would have been wasted on futile preparations, and civilization would have destroyed itself long before the Devourer arrived. Instead, humanity had chosen a different path. They had quietly withdrawn from galactic society, allowing themselves to be forgotten while they prepared for the ultimate battle. It was a sacrifice that required giving up everything they had built, everything they had achieved as a species. We spent the first 10,000 years building our fleet and establishing our hidden bases. The next 10,000 were devoted to research, trying to understand the Devourer's technology and find weaknesses we could exploit. And these past 20,000 years have been the long watch, monitoring the enemy's approach while keeping ourselves ready for war. Captain Vasquez paused, and when she continued, there was something new in her voice, hope. "But we haven't been fighting alone. Every time one of your species made a breakthrough in physics or engineering, we were watching. Every time you solved a problem we couldn't crack, we learned from your success. The galaxy has grown stronger while we've been away, and that strength is exactly what we need to survive what's coming." The Coalition delegates exchanged glances. The implications were staggering. Humanity had been preparing for this war longer than some species had existed, but they still needed help. That suggested the Devourer was more dangerous than anyone had imagined. Admiral Cross's voice suddenly joined the conversation, the ancient consciousness speaking through the ship's communication system. "Council Prime Veltar, we are transmitting complete technical specifications for the Devourer fleet, along with our battle plans and defensive strategies. You will need time to prepare your forces and evacuate non-essential populations from the outer rim worlds. The data that flooded Coalition computers was overwhelming. Battle plans that spanned multiple star systems, evacuation procedures for billions of civilians, weapon designs that pushed the boundaries of known physics. It was clear that humanity had spent millennia preparing for this moment. How long do we have? Council Prime, Veltar asked, dreading the answer. 87 years, 4 months, 12 days, Admiral Cross replied with mechanical precision. The advanced scouts of the Devourer swarm have already been detected by our deep space monitoring stations. The main force will follow shortly after. Less than 90 years to prepare for a threat that had taken humanity 50,000 years to get ready for. The timeline seemed impossible, but Captain Vasquez's next words offered a glimmer of hope. Council Prime, we're not asking you to fight this battle unprepared. Over the centuries, we've been quietly influencing galactic development, nudging your species toward technologies and strategies that will be crucial in the coming war. Your antimatter weapons, your gravity manipulation systems, your quantum communication networks, much of your advancement has been guided toward this moment. The revelation was both humbling and inspiring. Humanity hadn't just been preparing for war, they had been preparing their former neighbors for war as well. Every major technological breakthrough, every scientific discovery that had advanced galactic civilization, had been part of a vast plan stretching across millennia. Dr. Kell finally asked the question that had been burning in everyone's minds. Captain, after all this time, after all this sacrifice, do you really think we can win? The pause that followed stretched for several heartbeats. When Captain Vasquez finally answered, her voice carried the weight of 20,000 years of preparation and the hope of an entire galaxy. Doctor, we've spent 60,000 years learning about the Devourer. We know their weaknesses, their patterns, their limitations. More importantly, we know something they don't. We know how to work together. They consume galaxies by dividing their inhabitants, turning species against each other. But this galaxy is different. You've learned to cooperate, to share knowledge, to build something greater than the sum of your parts. The captain's words resonated through every ship in the fleet. Despite their differences, despite centuries of conflict and competition, the species of the galaxy had indeed learned to work together. The Galactic Coalition itself was proof of that. The Devourer expects to find a fractured galaxy, easy prey, divided by ancient hatreds. Instead, they're going to face a unified force armed with the best technology and strategies that 60,000 years of preparation can provide. We've been waiting for this moment, and we're ready. Admiral Cross's voice joined in the ancient consciousness, speaking with renewed strength. The long watch is ending. After 20 millennia of silence, humanity takes its place beside you in the light once again. Together, we will show the Devourer what this galaxy is truly capable of. As the meeting concluded and plans began for the greatest military build-up in galactic history, one truth became crystal clear. Humanity's sacrifice had not been in vain. Their 20,000-year vigil was about to pay off, and when it did, the galaxy would stand united against the darkness approaching from beyond. The stars, the ghost ship had opened its eyes, and the galaxy would never be the same.